but I was also stashed money up in these ceiling tiles, like back in the kitchen. So
Yeah.
I had a target for them to go to if they got raided. There's a safe. Take the money. It's all there.
Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got this machine man, Paul.
Oh, no, I never do that. Oh, you guys are good to me. Oh, no. I said, cut the shit. I said, this is what you're going to do. You're going to board that fucking window up. You're going to block it up. You're going to brick it up. That fucking window's not going to be there. And I said, bring a fucking pillow. You're going to sleep in this fucking bar till that thing's boarded up. And I said, if I come, we get a call down here again, these machines are broken into. I said, I'm going to come down here and bust you up. And he's like, oh, no. And I felt bad saying it because I wasn't really raised that way. But what I learned pretty quick, and situations you were in, your childhood, being in gangs, if you don't act a certain way around certain people, they're going to walk all over you.
Yeah, you're going to be the sheep.
You adapt. I mean, you adapt to what's going on. So I basically threatened his ass, and I could tell he's like a little shooken up, and we never had another break in that place.
When you put people on the spot, when they're lying to your face, they're like in shock that you're even calling them out.
Yeah, and so that was kind of the first things that I got, that he kind of was pushing me to get, be tougher and straighten things out and all, and that's kind of how it went for a while. But we had like I said, our close friend Phil, the judge. We walked my wife down the aisle and we got married. This is before we got married. He was a liquor board judge in Baltimore County, and he knew everybody. He was out there so long. He knew everybody in politics, in Baltimore City politics, Annapolis. I mean, he knew some people that eventually went to the U.S. House of Representatives. In fact, during that time frame in the 90s, I met a lot of people, a lot of politicians that were future mayors, future governors, future senators, U.S. senators, future congressmen, U.S. congressmen. I knew back in the 90s that were kind of in our little circle. I don't want to mention any names because there's a few people that are still pretty powerful, but Phil was important to us, and he was important to these machine guys. I call us machine men. But it wasn't just Sonny and I. I'm not mimicking La Costa Nostra. There's like dozens and dozens of these operators, these machine men. But there was like 5 main guys. Sonny and I were one of the 5 main guys because he had a lot of stops, had like 60 stops. But the biggest operators guy was named Joe Rockine, and he had about 150 stops. Now we were pulling in probably at that time 60,000 a week.
Wow.
Joe was pulling in 150 to 200,000 a week. This is all cash. And so, but these 5 main operators, they would meet like once a month at a place called the Golden Arm in Baltimore. The Golden Arm was Johnny Unice's old spot, hence the name, the Golden Arm. We'd meet there. Joe ended up buying the place at like a fire sale because I think Johnny Unice went bankrupt, had this other place. So we'd meet there once in a while, every month, and talk business. And what we talked about was like if one of the operators was having a problem with one of their accounts, say like a Nick, they didn't trust the Nick, and maybe they had 3 years left on their contract, and they just didn't get along. So the guy might go, "Hey man, this guy Nick, we don't get along. I went out. I got 3 years left. Give me 20 grand for the equipment and the headache. You can got him 3 years. And if you're making 1,000 a week, 20 grand, you're okay. I'll deal with the bullshit because I'm gonna make that money back real quick." That's kind of how these guys operated. But Phil, the liquor board judge, would show up because he knew everybody in Annapolis, and he would come to these meetings when something important was going on. And a few times during the 6 years I was involved in this business from 90 to 96, about 3 or 4 times, he showed up a lot. About 3 or 4 times was kind of important because he would come with news from Annapolis that every once in a while these guys we're going to outlaw these poker machines. We're going to make them illegal because right now they operate under a gray area, amusement only. As long as they say amusement only on the machine,
and it's not gambling.
It's not gambling.
Yeah.
We're covered. We're not doing that. So occasionally these guys in Annapolis would throw a bill up saying we're just going to outlaw them. And the main thing was, what is it going to cost? what's it going to cost? And like one year was like everybody kicked in 50 grand total, pay a few people to kill the bill. And this one particular year was 100 grand. And so I was like flipping, like, man, 100 fucking grand. Last year was 50 grand.
They're gonna keep going up.
It kept
Keep
going up,
paying them.
but see the
Yeah.
money that we were making so much money,
Yeah.
you just paid it, and it also was to pay these guys to keep the slots out, and that's what it did too, was to keep the slots out. Let me go back to how how the system worked. Like if we had an account, so I'll go about a raid and how this works with the raid and how these things are covered and how we're not. Like we had this one place. It was this is my first involvement with police. I'm riding with this guy named Rob. We're moving equipment around. He's like 6'3", 380, big black, huge black guy.
Yeah.
And Sonny told me beforehand, he goes, "You move his ass, you get him to move." I'm like, who the fuck's getting Rob to move? This guy's 380, man. Nobody's moving him, you know? So we're riding around and we get a call. We got hit. And it was one of our accounts. This place was called the T-Bird Lounge. T-Bird for Thunderbird. It was pretty crazy. It was in a bad area of Baltimore City, but it had half of a Thunderbird car as a canopy over top of the door.
Sticking out.
So it was you could see the Thunderbird part of it sticking over the doorway, the T-Bird Lounge. So she calls and said, the cops are there. They usually give you, they'll say, if they're nice, they go, we'll give you 15 minutes, come down to open machines up. If not, sometimes they just smash the shit out of them because all they want is the money. They take the money and they take the boards. The circuit boards is the main thing. They'll leave everything else, but everything else is trash because they beat it up with a club. But this particular time, they're like, 15 minutes, come down to open them up. We won't damage them. So we're real close. We get down there. We walk in. This is like, I'm a few months in. This is my first experience involved with the police. We walk in this bar and there's like fucking dust, white dust flying everywhere. I'm like, what the fuck is going on in here? These cops are going around with pool sticks and they're banging the tiles. I'm thinking, like, why are they banging the tiles? Because some of these bar owners, even me, when I owned a bar for 23 years, I had a safe, but I was also stashed money up in these ceiling tiles, like back in the kitchen. So I had a target for them to go to if they got raided. There's a safe, take the money, it's all there. But I would stash money somewhere else, and that's a lot of these guys did.
But so the cops are looking for money?
Yeah. So when you get raided, so what happens is how this raid works. So they get tipped off there's gambling in this bar, T-Bird Lounge. So the cop comes in undercover. They have to see three things have to happen. They're sitting at the bar, and you don't know these guys are cops sometimes. They have beards. They look like, bikers. They blend in. Whatever the environment they're in, they'll blend in. So you have to see three things happen before they can get a warrant to raid the place. First thing is guys over there playing machine. And they're playing, and they'll see a point secure. So say it's their quarter machine. Say 2,000 points are up top. It's $500. Okay, they see they're drinking their beer, watching this guy. So the guy gets off the machine and is like, hey, I'm ready to go. You got two, So the cop sees the 2,000 points. So what we would have, we had these little clickers like garage door openers, little button. We had them hooked up to the boards, and we had a button behind the bar. So the bartender could just touch his button behind the bar. Boom, the points are gone. So the cop sees the points disappear. Blink, they're gone. And then they see an envelope come over the bar. Here's your $500. They're caught. Illegal gambling.
Yeah.
So the raid comes. They're busting the place up. When the raid takes place, if your place is popped for illegal gambling, they associate every dime in that building, anywhere in that building, with illegal gambling, and they're going to take it. And they're going to find it. So this guy, we walk,
he could stack up money, and it's all going.
So we walk in there, and the guy goes, Rob, who has the keys? And Rob's like, me. He goes, they didn't bust machines up. They were straight. They gave us 15 minutes. We got there. So Rob opens up the doors, and these dollar bill acceptors, boom, the money drops. They drop into a bucket. There's a little bucket there called all the money. So they get the buckets, they dump them on the bar, and the cops are counting the money. There's plain clothes and there's regular, uniform guys. The guys are popping the tiles out. So they're hollering, screaming, where's your drawer money? They want the drawer money. They knew he had a drawer somewhere in there. He had a bank. I don't have shit. It just opened up. They're smashing bottles. They're pouring out coffee. They're knocking shit over. I'm thinking, like, what the fuck is going on? They're tearing this place. And this is what I want to be a cop, a fed. These guys are fucking tearing this bar up, saying, where's the fucking money at, So Rob gets the ass. Rob's like, in the floor drain. And then Jarrell, the guy who owned the bar, he's like, you mother. He starts getting mad. So the cop goes behind the bar. He picks the grate up, and there's a mason jar in there, and there's $1,500 in there. That's where he hid his money at night, in the floor drain. He didn't have a safe. That's all he had to do was give the money up. So the cops come in. All the money in the poker machine was $3,000. They write it down. They give the bar owner a receipt. You know, they count the drawer money in the jar, $1,500. They give him a receipt. They take the boards. So me and Rob are like hanging around. I didn't know what the protocol was. Me and Rob are hanging around. All Rob told me was, don't say shit.
Are you afraid that you're going to get arrested or anything?
I didn't know what was going on. When we're pulling up there, Rob says, don't say shit. He goes, if you say anything, you just move equipment around. That's all you do. You don't say shit. Even if over the years when I knew stuff, I didn't know stuff. I always played dumb. So one of the cops pulls me aside and says, who are you? Like, I just work here. I just move equipment around. They hear that line all the time, on these raids. Give me your ID. I'm thinking, oh, fuck, there goes my police career. I'm 3 months in this vending business, He gets my ID, he's looking at it. He's like, what do you do for them? They're using these things for illegal gambling, racketeering, and all. I said, officer, I said, I just started working here, man. I don't know. I just move equipment around. He's like, you need to find a new fucking line of work. So the cop told me this. So I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. You just yes, sir, 3 bags full. Just try and get out of the situation. So they start talking to Rob and all. So Rob's just nodding his shoulders. I just move equipment around. We had a board and keys. They weren't getting shit out of us. So, all right, we're leaving. Rob's like, okay. And they're like, you staying? Rob just shrugged his shoulders. So they roll out. So once they roll out and they leave all the paperwork there, they're done. They can't come back in. They're done. So why we waited was Sonny was on the way down with 2 more boards because they took the boards out. So he comes down with 2 more boards. Boom, plug them in, turn them on. Boom, we're up and running. Let the games begin. We're back in business. So how the deal works with the money. So the bar owners, they took all the money. So Sonny sees the receipts that he left. Now who's being charged as a bar owner for illegal gambling.
Yeah. So they didn't take him. They didn't take him away.
No, they give him a paper saying you're going to be summoned to go to court for illegal gambling.
Oh.
So when Sonny comes in, he's bitching about, oh, this and that. So he looks at the receipts. He says, okay, they took $3,000 out of the poker machine. He gives him $1,500. That would have been his half. We make him whole. Okay, they took $1,500 from his bank, his personal bank for the business and all. 15, 3. He's got his 3. He's whole now. So when Rob gave up the money in the drawer, Jarrell was pissed. But Rob said, look, man, they're smashing your place up. We're going to have to pay for that. Yeah. So he was trying to save Sonny some money. So Sonny had to kick some money in because they were tearing the tiles up. They knocked some liquor over and all. So that's why Rob said, just give the fucking money up because you're going to be whole.
Yeah, it's not worth $1,500. You smash up the whole bar.
You're whole. And then here's the other thing. You get a business card. Here's your lawyer. We got your lawyer. He's going to send us the bill. You miss work. You got to close. Anything else comes up, it's all paid for. Nothing. They go to court. They get a smack on the wrist. Illegal gambling, misdemeanor. Hey, we didn't know what they're doing them.
They just forfeit the money. Do they forfeit all the money?
The money's gone. You rarely get the money back. But we make them whole. It's an unwritten rule. Like all the operators operate the same way. The good operators. I mean, if you call them good, I mean, because some of these guys weren't good. You make these guys whole because you want to keep these guys because they're basically in the trenches for you. They're taking the hits. So like initially in that business in the early 90s, but when I was getting ready to get out later on, they started coming after the operators because they figured we're just playing whack-a-mole with these bar owners, We need to get the operators for racketeering and all that. But that's how these deals work. Like when you got raided, that's kind of how raid worked.
How often would these places be getting raided?
We knew with Phil, and we knew police. I had friends who were police, and we knew a lot of politicians. And sometimes we would get a heads up, either from them or other accounts. Because sometimes they work, and it's funny. They were stupid. I hate this. Not all cops are stupid. I have a lot of friends now who are that are cops that aren't stupid, but they would work in a cycle. Like they would say, if they would do raids, they would do like one area, like say we'll say Fells Point. They would do all Fells Point. Like say there's like 20 bars in Fells Point, so maybe they got 7 of them. They would get all 7 of them that day.
Yeah.
So once they hit the first one, somebody's on the phone calling all the other ones. Get all the money out of your joint. Get all so they can't get your car money in your car unless they have a search warrant for it. So like when I owned a bar for years, from 93 to 16, I had a bank. I had money hidden in the back, and I also kept a lot of money in my car because unless they had a warrant for my car, they weren't getting in my car. They got whatever I had, whatever was in the bar. But that was a cost of doing business. So if you had these machines, occasionally you get popped. I managed, believe it or not, I'm knocking on wood, the 23 years that I had my bar, I got out of that business in 96. I never got popped. Never had
Has
it.
anybody ever robbed? So you said these main guys would collect the money. Has anyone that worked with them, like, I'm gonna rob them? Has
What
anyone done that?
we had guys, I had a van stolen from me. I had the cigarette guy was on vacation. And I had to run his route, and it was like at the end of the day, and we had like, I mean, probably 500 cartons of cigarettes, and then I had like over $10,000 in cash towards the end of the day, from hitting all the stops. And I went in this one stop. Now, mind you, it takes maybe 5 minutes to do a cigarette machine. Go in, you count it down, take the money, go back, get the cigarettes, come back, put it in, go back. It's pretty. If you do it a lot, you can do it pretty quick. I
Yeah.
went in this bar. It was like my last stop. Got the money out, counted it down, went back in the truck. Is that we all right? Went back to the truck. Now there's a padlock on the side door. You slid it open. There's a floor mounted safe. You drop the money in, spin it, lock it back up. But to get into the car, the ignition to the car, we had a lock on the door, a bolt lock on the door. Get through that, open that up. I had a chain lock around the steering wheel, and then I had a kill switch. Within 5 minutes, I come out of that bar. I'm like, where the hell's my van at? That fast. That fast. They found it 8 hours later behind like an abandoned building. The hole cut in the floor, safe gone. Every cigarette match gone. And they were going around. They did that and repaired a few weeks. They hit like all the big operators. They got all their trucks, and they waited till like the end of the day because it's easier to deal with the cash than it is to deal with cigarette stamps.
Yeah.
Especially if you're trying to take them out of state. So that went on for a while. We uh, I had my house. My house was attempted breaking into a couple times, and they knew my schedule. They never got in, but when the police came, I said I think it was orchestrated. Oh no, no, it had to be. I said bullshit. People knew my schedule, so I had to be
Yeah.
careful with what I did, where I was going, and you couldn't. And I for years, my son's 29. Yeah, when he worked at a bar with me, like even after I got out of that business, we always talk code in the business. Like we didn't talk about numbers or money or accounts, or we would say spot one, spot two, or stop on Tuesdays where we had breakfast, say at Belloc Diner. So we kind of talked in code because we had radios, but we never knew if somebody was listening. But down the road there were people listening because that was one of the reasons that led me to getting out of this because we had some issues with the police and the feds and all that.
So
So
as things start to progress, do you you're still collecting the money from these?
I'm
Is
still
that
I'm
to the
still
extent you
I'm
said
still
you
collecting
started
money.
carrying a gun too, right?
How I was introduced to a gun was Phil was I missed that part of the story back there, but Phil, being he was a Baltimore County liquor board judge, he was they were the first people to know when a bar was up for sale. They had to get notified before anybody else, before any sticker was put on the window. So Phil would give us a call. He wouldn't talk on the phone. He would say, "Come see me." So Sonny would send me over, and he usually send me over in an envelope because we knew Phil had some information, $500, $1,000, usually like $500 just to get information. But if something worked out, he'd get more money. So it started like every Thursday. If he had something going on, I'd have an envelope. I go over there and Phil would say, like, because he never talked on the phone. Hey, T. Apple Schmitz is coming up for sale. Just letting you know, there's no main operator because the main operators, the main 5 guys that we dealt with, We didn't step on their toes. The other fuckers we didn't care about. We roll over them in a second.